Warning, personal opinions, satirical comedy, and spoilers.
In the last day, I've seen everything I believed turned upside down. Ghosts and demons were real, so I decided to play by that set of rules.
What are you saying?
I'm saying that rules are rules, and the first rule of the Chest of Demons is that it can only be opened by the living.
Why, that's right.
Except for Time Slime and Zambulu from the original show, but that's not the only lie you're regurgitating, is it, Curse of the 13th Ghost? Hi, I'm WHYBOY of ToonGrin and welcome back to Cartoon Corner. And yup, Scooby-Doo is now 50 years old, joining Mickey Mouse in the Old Animals Club. Ugh, dog wrinkles. Scooby's been a classic in cartoons since its beginnings, and if you frequent this channel and my series Scooby-Doo Corner, you know I am positively gaga for the antics of the mystery-solving Scooby-Doo. Apart from tearing through some piece of garbage movies of his, there was one show that stood out as the worst that Scooby had to offer. That was the 13 Ghosts of Scooby-Doo. It had everything. A waste of a brilliant ghost hunting premise, stale acting, an annoying fan insert character with Flim Flam here, and an utter waste of the wondrous camp talent of Vincent Price as Vincent Van Ghoul. Which I am convinced that Vincent's charisma is the only reason the show was ever made. Otherwise, without Vincent's mystic presence, I can't see why you would hold fondness for this. Goodbye. I'll save yous! Whoo! Ow! Oh, thanks, obnoxious. Come on, WHYBOY, you're being way too negative. You always like seeing Scooby-Doo get experimental, don't you? You appreciate things like Zombie-On and Moon Monster Madness, and now for their 50th anniversary, they're finally going to put to rest the 13 Ghosts of the series that they lost out on due to cancellation. Isn't that incredible? So, are you saying you liked watching The Curse of the 13th Ghost? No, it was total butt sauce, but it's sort of your job to talk about this stuff. So, I'm going to get some waffles instead. Obnoxious T Ghost is outie! Woo! His last name is Ghost? Yep, sure funny how that worked out. Boop. This is one of those split the fan base on the middle sort of Scooby movies. You either love it or hate it. And I think I know the main reason why, as it all centers on asking, did Scooby-Doo Curse of the 13th Ghost lie? So from the trailers, this is how the movie was pitched. After Scooby and the gang are forced to retire from mystery solving due to the wrongful catching up some cantankerous old man, the gang happens across Vincent Van Ghoul's crystal ball, who for months has been trying to reach Shaggy, Daphne, and Scooby and have them return to help capture the elusive 13 ghosts from the demon chest, Asmodeus. Now, the continuation is framed like this because the 13 Ghosts of Scooby-Doo was terribly managed. Throughout the 13 episode runtime, they only captured 12 ghosts within the chest. I'd argue 11 myself because neither the show, the fans, nor Wikipedia could decide if Captain Ferguson here was it a random ship ghost captain, or one of the 13 most dangerous ghosts in the world. The ghost from the demon chest that actually appears from the chest in that episode is this tornado Cyclops, and that means it's either an entirely new ghost, or just a combo of every ghost the gang caught so far. There's no way of knowing, as the writers on this show don't understand how to give context clues. But whatever, Asmodeus is the 13th ghost, and now Daphne, Shaggy, and Scooby suit up to catch the last ghost, as according to Vincent in the intro,
only you can return the demons to the chest.
Why us?
Because you let them out.
Well, Scooby did, and then Flim Flam and Scrappy catch the majority, but sure. So the adventure is on as the 13 Ghost Gang sets off to catch the ghost, and the writer now has to manufacture what Fred and Velma will contribute to the proceedings. Can't just have them awkwardly standing around, can we? So Fred is given a What? I ain't the leader. What am I? Spin as Daphne takes the lead in a stereotypical gender role switch plot, and Velma's here to be her 110% skeptical self. So, seems like we got everything we need to make a pretty decent flick for the 13 Ghosts fans. Now, for me, the hater. I was just hoping, thanks to a movie format needing stakes, we could have Asmodeus be a threat. Given the original series was full of demons, it seemed great to offset the game's goofiness with some actual supernatural threats, as that's what works best for Scooby writing, and not 13 Ghosts.
Up fast, you swabs! Follow the bouncing ball, and everybody sing! Roll, roll, roll your boat gently round the reef. Warily, 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 life is what a reef. Roll, roll, roll your boat gently round the reef. Warily, 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 life is what a dream.
This is the worst dinner music I've ever heard.
I'll admit, I was pleasantly surprised by how Curse of the 13 Ghosts started. Sure, you got all the references and such to make the fans go, I clap! Because I remember a thing from my childhood, and this brief euphoric moment of joy allows me to stem off the fear of death from my impending old age. Hooray! There was honestly some great stuff built up in this movie. The Jets and Asmodeus are built up to be these larger-than-life nightmares that create a tangible threat in this narrative. Daphne gets to step up as a leader of Mystery Inc. and show off some confident moments instead of that live-action movie where...
Not me.
Yeah. And there is even some clever retconning as to why Scooby and Shaggy are such cowards.
The whole experience really traumatized Scooby. He almost had a nervous breakdown, so we decided never to bring it up again.
There's no such thing as ghosts.
Do you think we were born cowards? Sister, the reason we're always on edge around ghouls and goblins, even fake ones, is that we've seen and fought 12 of the real thing.
Not to mention, Vincent Van Gogh and Flim Flam stand out as entirely faithful to the original show for the most part. Flim Flam became a teen who rightfully became quite a con man, taking the exploits of his adventures and turning them into a means to make money. And Vincent Van Gogh is as kooky, overdramatic, and punny as always, making the best clips and use of humor the movie has to offer.
Daphne, my Air Boo and Boo host just scream-mailed me back on my die phone. The package from Shaggy was never delivered by the Ghostal service. What, one too many puns?
This actually felt like it was continuing the 13 Ghosts. So we finally get the conclusion to this epic series that only got cancelled after 4 months. That's so very sad. Yeah, I bet as sad as this movie is a big, fat phony. Phony? You're darn right, my real ghost friend. The phoniness starts to reveal itself when we make it clear that in the 13 Ghosts of Scooby-Doo, the ghosts were real. The monsters were land developers in rubber masks. They weren't Old Man Jenkins. They weren't an awesome robot that protected an amusement park. These were all supernatural entities like demons, wizards, succubi, witches, and of course, ghosts. Many of whom had radically dangerous supernatural powers which could alter the fabric of reality and manipulate space and time itself. Now pair that with Velma the Skeptic, who is trying to disprove the idea that supernatural stuff is real.
Okay, fine. The 13th ghost turned out to be fake. But what about the first 12?
Mass hallucinations from high-altitude oxygen deprivation. I mean, it is the Himalayas.
Now, as we should know by now with Loch Ness Monster and Rock and Roll Mystery, Scooby-Doo hates real monsters in his movies ever since Zombie Island. So here comes Velma as the skeptic to try and explain everything away, make things less fun, discrediting her 3 friends' collaborative experiences to such a degree she actually comes off as a stubborn idiot than the smart one of the group.
I found the howling wind! It's just a recording played on a network of hidden speakers! I knew something was up as soon as we arrived. Stop fooling around, you two.
Wow, dude!
Like we may be chickens, man, but at least we aren't a leech sucking out all the fun.
But I get it. The is it real or is it not is a handy open ending that writers can toss into most of these Scooby tales with ease, and Velma is their vehicle for that, where she can explain away all the weirdness with logic and facts that follow the story. But not only should you not be using it as much as you do, writers, hint hint, but especially don't use it on the movie that is meant to cap off this series that was full of real supernatural beings. This is the Curse of the 13th Ghost. That is the show's whole foundation, that the supernatural is real, that the strange, surreal, and demonic are facts of life. Then this movie comes along and Velma is all,
Hey guys, ghosts ain't real, so says I, Velma Dunkley, the biggest brain in the room. I solve mystery.
really? Having Velma be this dense and brush off everything we saw from a 13-episode series and a film as nothing more than a hoax undermines everything we see and highlights Velma's biggest weakness as a skeptic character. No one knows how to write her as a balanced skeptic. She's either 100% stubbornly sticking to facts, looking for answers, or breaks down into hysterics when she can't explain something. Like, right before the third act, Fred and Velma are off on their own looking for the demon chest when they are pulled up into the fog mysteriously, and they wind up being dropped about 2 mountain ranges over to meet up back with Daphne and the others. This breaks Velma's fragile little mind and makes her believe everything, but makes her shut down, losing all hope. So, what broke her mind really? She and Fred were put on top of the mountain by a ski lift catching their coats. I think a visual is needed for this.
Freddy! Freddy, oh my god! Oh my god, Freddy! Freddy! This is a ghost! The ghost has got us, Freddy! Freddy, we gotta do something!
This is what it would look like being pulled up the mountain. Attached to her clothing, she'd be able to see what was going on. Even if you took into account she can't see without her glasses. Fred was brought up the mountain the same way too. He could see the chair bringing them up too. For someone who's the skeptic, an easily explainable occurrence sure broke her easily. But Velma is the clear focal point that shows the Curse of the 13 Ghosts' biggest lie. For a movie made for the 13 Ghosts fans, and undoubtedly it was because the 13 Ghosts fans are the ones that are coming back for this sequel, it feels almost ashamed of the story it's continuing. It made Daphne the leader and Fred the bumbling dunce for the girl power quota, even though at most she drove that car and got kidnapped once in the original series, and the movie's execution is insulting at worst and obnoxious at best. Flim Flam, despite the trailers, is barely in the movie, despite being arguably the actual leader in the show. Oh, and if you grew up liking Scrappy, well, I got some news for you.
Well, I guess the gang's all here.
Except Scrappy.
What's a Scrappy?
Word to the wise, continuing this hate Scrappy meme kinda perpetuates he'll always be around because you keep bringing him up. But give the movie an iota of credit, they had an interesting idea that they bumbled horribly for the ending too. Turns out the 13th and final ghost was actually Vincent's ancestor, a warlock who turned wicked and lost his soul and became a demon. This idea for a Scooby story sounds awesome. Until it isn't. It isn't? No, obnoxious. It's actually quite obnoxious, actually. Because the entire ending is ruined as it's incomprehensible on what the actual ending means. So as ghosts aren't real here in this movie, Asmodeus turns out to be Vincent's stage magician partner who faked his death at the beginning of the movie. He disguised himself as Asmodeus and uses stage magic to pose as him to steal then sell the demon chest for profit. Despite knowing anyone who opens it will release ghosts that can destroy the world, because he was there in the beginning, helping Vincent catch the original 13, because they let them out first. Starting the apocalypse? Money. Yeah, that's a traditional bad Scooby motive. But even if we ignore that, the story falls apart with this plot twist as it leaves things unexplained. As after escaping and not really explaining how he pulled off faking Asmodeus, which is a pretty blatant misstep there. Like, even the worst Scooby movies do that. The magician hops to his ghost car. Yeah, but he's thwarted thanks to an avalanche. Then the final twist reveals itself as it turns out that avalanche was Vincent's ancestor, who came back as a ghost to save Vincent. As Velma says that based on legend, because of course it's a legend, he seeked redemption, not revenge for being locked in the chest. Few things there. So since the part about Asmodeus becoming a demon, he has been released twice from the chest. First when Vincent let him out, and then again with Scooby. So did he not want to repent the first time? Did he forget what his own redemption legend was until he was let out the second time? Next, this is the second avalanche caused by this ghost car. So was Asmodeus both these avalanches? Or was he only the avalanche the second time when he shows up as a fart cloud at the end? Thirdly, and most importantly, Velma was lying. Yeah, as she says to Flim Flam.
What about all that stuff you said about Azamat Van Ghoul?
Those stories have been central to Vincent's entire life. I didn't want to take that away from him.
So you made it up.
Lying to a centuries-old guy. Nice, Dinkley. But what are we supposed to take from this? Was that Asmodeus we saw? Was it something only Vincent can see? Is he free in the world, or has his spirit ascended? Or was that all crap and the movie is tricking us like Velma tricked Vincent and none of that was real? Or was none of this case real and Asmodeus is just floating about somewhere eating babies or something? You can't pull that is it real or not ending along with its real ending at the same time. You have magic and supernatural stuff in the canon of the movie. Why be ashamed of it? Instead, everything is half-hearted nonsense. Vincent isn't even allowed to do any cool magic like his magic carpet, and the 13 ghosts get completely undermined as nothing more than, it's made up garbage.
Oh yeah! Like, remember that time we entered the mirror dimension? Dude, that was like wild, man! But it turned out that we all had oxygen deprivation hallucinations like Velma said, even though we were in the desert.
Yeah, or like that rhyme we entered the Renaissance.
Right, Scoob! Or like that bad trip you had to an alternate future where everything was a Mad Max wasteland.
And you were a Super Saiyan at one point.
Yeah, that was pretty cool.
Here's a piece of advice for writers of fantasy, magic, or etc. When you write the story, you make the logic of the world. You set up the rules and what can be bent. Wizards, dragons, and yes, even ghosts can be logical if you frame that as existing within your world. Doing that, you are able to create consistency in your world writing. 13 Ghosts still sucked in terms of that immensely, because even with its own set rules, it broke them pretty apparently from time to time. But the 13 Ghosts of Scooby-Doo never lied. The 13 Ghosts were real. So the real Curse of the 13 Ghosts is not Asmodeus. It's that this movie is too ashamed to even try to be about a real supernatural ghost. And, even bigger, it's a lie of a celebration, as this is an insult to the 50th anniversary of this franchise. Happy 50th birthday, Scooby-Doo! Scooby-Doo! You're going to be a big old boy.
And you're just so funny and cool. I love you.
Yes, this certainly is a happy moment for you. Want to know what Warner Brothers did for your 50th this year, Scooby? A 26-second ad for a series box set! Well, Scooby, you don't seem very thankful for that gracious gift of theirs. So self-centered of you. But it is your B-Day, so how about this instead? 2 terrible movies based on fan-favorite movies and shows. He's dead now. I'm WHYBOY, and welcome back to Cartoon Corner, and really, happy birthday to Scooby-Doo. Scooby is one of the classic icons of animation, and he's been keeping himself relevant for 50 years, while all the other Hanna-Barbera properties have been, well... Scooby of all properties has proven versatile and enjoys its relevancy in reimaginings in various forms of media. This stream of content has garnered a niche loyal fanbase who have loved this canine clue master's mystery-solving prowess since the beginning. So it's a good thing WB is celebrating his 50th then by narratively assaulting two fan favorites with the sole purpose of exploiting their popularity. I mean, Curse of the 13th Ghost was already a completely infuriating movie for fans, but it's half-hearted isn't it a real ghost thing? And that's coming from someone who hated the 13 Ghosts of Scooby-Doo as a kid. But 13 Ghosts is arguably one of their more unsuccessful series, so a movie rooting the legacy of that is at best just pathetically misguided, and at worst delusional for a 50th year celebration. What really got everyone in a fit was the knowledge that the fan-declared best Scooby-Doo movie was getting a soft rebooted sequel to Celebrate, and that became Scooby-Doo on Zombie Island 2, or Scooby-Doo Return to Zombie Island. Now, Scooby-Doo on Zombie Island is my favorite Scooby-Doo movie, it's NERO's favorite, and it's arguably a fan favorite for many others. The story of the Scooby Gang going to an island in New Orleans to get chased by zombies and cat demons achieved to be the most mature, scary, funny, in-depth, and intriguing Scooby-Doo movie out of the long line of a movie, giving a sympathetic yet monstrous rose for the gang to face, and the supernatural elements being played up as macabre rather than the usual goofy antics. And since release, Zombie Island continues to be the majority fan favorite in the community, inspiring many independent creatives to try and capture that same level of dark writing while keeping a healthy balance of Scooby silliness. So when you find Warner Brothers doing a sequel to Zombie Island after 20 plus years to capitalize on the 50th year celebration, I think it's fair to be a bit nervous for the movie. Not to mention, if you listen to podcasts from the writers, the managers that WB drops down basically ruin any chance to experiment or go outside the box for Scooby-Doo.
The supernatural and sort of skeptical sides of the story, you never quite commit to showing any actual magic.
It was something that WB felt strongly about, was that there was sort of a confusing thing about Scooby-Doo, where sometimes, a couple of times in the past, the ghosts have been real, but traditionally in Scooby-Doo, the ghosts are not real. They're people in costumes pulling real estate stamps. And then I think where we ended up, hopefully that's the way it reads, is we kind of leave it up in the air a little bit. You know, I don't feel like that is a cop-out.
I want this to be impartial, and it's hard to say this, but
Return to Zombie Island sucks butt, and frankly, WB should be disgusted with how they handled this half-a-century celebration to one of their most profitable franchises.
Well said, Nero. While what Nero said is a basic overview response from us, I do want to take the time to articulate how bad Return to Zombie Island really was. Which can be done by simply asking, is Scooby-Doo Return to Zombie Island canon? The answer would seem simple at first. Of course it is. This is already a clear sequel to Curse of the 13th Ghost, as they make clear reference to how they stupidly quit mystery solving, and this sheriff shows up, which is really brilliant. So, if you didn't care enough for 13 Ghosts to want to see the movie, but if you did like Zombie Island enough to want to see the movie of that, you could suck an egg and be left confused as to why they quit. So, clearly, Return to Zombie Island and Curse of the 13 Ghosts are canon to each other, right? But should it really have been? Story canon and Scooby-Doo haven't really been utilized to a great extent in the franchise. In most of the shows and films, they are completely episodic, disconnected mysteries from one another, and that is how it works best, as the Scooby Gang was conceived with an episodic nature in mind, and isn't really meant for serialized character growth. That doesn't mean canon can't work. There are noticeable exceptions, including Loch Ness Monster and Chill Out, the WWE movies, Frank and Creepy, Scooby-Doo Mystery Incorporated, and the live-action movies. Scooby-Doo has been a series I always admired for how it was such a simple concept of wacky kids in a van solving mysteries with a talking dog, and yet managed to retain good mileage out of the idea. Yet we have writers who could experiment and go in any direction with that concept, and for the most part make it work. But now we got Zombie Island 2, and the question of canon comes up again. Return to Zombie Island is firstly saying it's canonical to Zombie Island, but also the Curse of the 13 Ghosts, then to 13 Ghosts of Scooby-Doo, and then for some reason to Reluctant Werewolf as well. And much like Curse of the 13's Ghost, it's like the creators watched the original movie and didn't at the same time. The basic setup is that Mystery Inc., now de-aged since the original movie, yes, they all had jobs, and Daphne and Fred were a reporting team, not frickin' interns.
She was just
Reminiscing, yeah, about that summer when I was working at that TV station for my school project.
Like, yeah, we know.
I was determined to find an actual supernatural case, not just another guy in a mask.
Yeah, when you were, what, 35-ish? With your syndicated TV show?
And then we wouldn't have Coast to Coast with Daphne Blake, your very successful syndicated series on Americana, going on its second season, I might add.
Anyway, the eternally youthful gang is without jobs and lured back to Moonstar Island through a fake vacation contest held by a cameo to take part in a Zombie Island movie without being aware of it, as Shaggy and Scooby are adamantly saying to everyone else,
No more mysteries.
And as we proceed, we just drag on and on the pace of the movie as the gang had to adamantly not be looking into the mystery for Shaggy and Scooby's sake, but make all the references they can to Zombie Island, all for the sake of the second plot where, surprise, these dumb-looking zombies with googly eyes were fake. And now the gang is helping shoot the Zombie Island movie as cat people are then trying to stop the shoot, all while Velma is looking for the real mystery behind Zombie Island.
The one where the cat people appeared and tried to suck our life force. There's no way they were real. It defies the laws of science.
But it was, Velma. We were there.
No, it's got to be something else. Something rational.
We'll get back to Miss Twinkly in a second, but the movie's story structure is already sounding like two different stories are fighting for attention. So at the very most, if you don't mind Scooby Cannon being strangled, you can instead enjoy being very, very bored. But if Holy Ren Cannon is what you want to hear, let's talk about the real mystery behind Zombie Island. There isn't a real mystery. Not in canon anyway. In Zombie Island, the whole mess started when the pirate Captain Moonscar pillaged and killed a lot of the settlers on Moonscar Island, so the pirates could find a place to bury his treasure. But the last survivors, Simone and Lena, prayed to their cat god, and voila! They became soul-sucking cat creatures, who killed Moonscar and his men, and then anyone else who came to their island, so they could suck out their life force on the Harvest Moon and live forever. The real mystery Return to Zombie Island wants to solve is first making a jab at how the cat demons and zombies weren't real, and to ask where is Morgan Moonscar's treasure. And just to cut to the chase, the movie fails spectacularly on even following through with a half-assed answer on both mysteries, especially how this was all fake. Like, here's the key clue they used for this mystery, the guest book. When the gang arrives for their fake vacation, Mr. Alan Smithy here, appropriate name and embodiment of Warner Brothers business practices. Anyway, he asked them all to fill in the Moonstar Lodge's hotel guest book, and Velma realizes that pages were ripped out. Apparently because they were on the island before, they signed it previously then, so Alan Smithy ripped out those pages to hide that evidence. So this, along with some really on-the-nose bad acting, is the proof that the gang was roped into a really crappy zombie movie and back to Moonscar Island. But yeah, that makes no sense in canon and on its own merits. In canon, the house on Moonscar Island wasn't a hotel. It had rooms, but it was made specifically for the plantation farmers who harvested the peppers, not for a hotel situation. So they wouldn't have and didn't sign anything when they went to Moonscar Island and Zombie Island. There is a counter of if this movie is trying to be more of a reboot of Zombie Island, maybe in the reboot the plantation was a hotel and Simone did have the gang sign that guest book. Then why didn't we see anything like that in the flashback? In the movie's own canon flashback, it showed nothing on them signing any guest book. All the key scenes from the story, but apparently not the key clue for this mystery. So this clue is just predicated on just the assumption of that, oh, because there are pages ripped out, therefore it must mean that our names were on those pages. When you write a mystery story, you are supposed to show the audience all the available clues, so along with the characters, they can try and form what the answer to the mystery is too. The clues here of a ripped up guest book and just bad acting is based on just assumptions of knowledge. We as the audience are just supposed to be aware of acting lingo and mannerisms, and we as the audience are just supposed to guess that these pages have the game's name on them when we see no evidence of that. Scooby-Doo may be a children's mystery series, but that doesn't give the go-ahead to write a crap mystery. You want to know a better mystery? Scooby-Doo and Zombie Island. Throughout the movie, there are clues shown on screen of ghostly encounters causing the game to float, and then later on, it's revealed that the game were made to levitate thanks to Simone and Lena's voodoo dolls. This movie took the time to show small, minute scenes of where the cat creatures got personal effects from the game for their voodoo dolls. That creates a through line of a mystery and gives the audience all the info and clues to figure out the culprits were using voodoo dolls. That is mystery intrigue writing there, Return to Zombie Island. You can't make a mystery based on assumed evidence. But that's just the halfway point mystery, which feels like an eternity to get to. After that, the movie goes for the low-hanging fruit and asks, what happened to Morgan Moonscar's treasure? Who cares? In Zombie Island, the treasure was a front story for Simone and Lena to lure in idiots to eat their souls. There wasn't a treasure to find. But this movie retcons the situation as, Morgan Moonscar, we have killed you for killing our family and friends to hide your gold. Now we will take your gold and bury it ourselves. Yeah, it makes no sense for them to kill Moonscar, steal his treasure, to then hide it themselves. They were alive for decades, so what? They had his treasure and just decided to keep it for sentimental reasons? So, as a sequel to Zombie Island, Return to Zombie Island doesn't make any sense. But what if this movie was a reboot of Zombie Island, where the cat creatures for some reason took the treasure and hid it for themselves? Then it still wouldn't work, as by the end of Return to Zombie Island, where Mystery captures the culprits behind the cat people, 2 nameless islanders and a sea captain. Solid suspect writing there. I especially love they have no names. By giving up the Simone's necklace to the cat people, which shoots an Indiana Jones laser beam, revealing a fake treasure the game buried, so they could pincer them in by looking like the stupid zombies from the cover. But just so happens by coincidence, the real treasure was just right next to where they game buried the fake one. 2 things. 1, if this is to be taken as a strict sequel to Zombie Island, the treasure was being buried outside in the flashbacks we saw, so after the pirates murdered all their friends and family, Simone and Lena decided then to bury the treasure that caused all this next to their god? Yeah, that makes sense, and not, using the money to create a settlement on the island and making it the perfect trap for soul devouring. But for the second thing, if we take this as a soft reboot of Zombie Island instead, where Simone and Lena did bury the treasure and Simone's necklace was needed to point to where the real treasure is, why did it point at where the fake treasure is? Mystery Inc. didn't think the treasure was real until they found it, so the necklace, which was supposed to find the treasure, hit the completely wrong spot, and then they found the real one by accident. Yeah, it doesn't make sense either way you try and spin the canon. Return to Zombie Island is a movie trying to be both a sequel and a reboot at the same time, and it's fighting itself over it. And might I add, for a bunch of people, and especially the cowards Shaggy and Scooby, who all went through almost getting their souls sucked out by cat demons, why do none of them remember that they return to the same island until they read they are on Moonscar Island? They won this trip in a contest. I would hope they would have been told where they were going and may remember, oh, New Orleans? Isn't that the place where we almost died? There's so much more I could tear apart about this movie, from horrible characterization of the game, to terrible story pacing, to insulting retcons, to just blatant animation errors. I mean, seriously?
You see, they just didn't care.
This is a movie at its core whose canon tears apart any sort of pacing or narrative writing to shreds, all for the sake of you going, I remember that. What is the point? Oh, but you'll hate this a whole lot more. Oh god, no. Harold, please, no more. But this is the best part. Consider this. If this is canon with Curse of the 13 Ghosts, are monsters real? My work here is done. That satanic jerk is right. If you take this as canon to 13 Ghosts, it makes both movies considerably stupider. Because monsters were real on Zombie Island. They met ghosts, they got chased by zombies, they experienced hauntings. Even in a soft reboot argument, they experienced it all, including the cat people turning to dust in front of them, dying in front of them. So with that context now, why does Velma think it's all fake?
I finally get to cross off one of my unsolved capers.
Unsolved? But the cat people from last time...
Must be the same people looking for the treasure this time.
And the original zombies?
Swamp gas.
Well, if you find denial hilarious, this definitely explains everything. Just two things. One, the black cat creature clearly was real, and unlike Nessie or any of the other end movie monster reveals Scooby's has had, these cats have a century-long killing streak, and kinda goes without saying, the cat will continue to attack people afterwards. And no one cares because Ellen Smithy gets money! Hilarious! And two, they're the exact same people, Lena, Simone, Jacques, all Caucasian, 2 women and a man. 2 nameless islanders and a Caucasian ferryman. 2 guys and a girl. Just basic comparison there, plus you said the final zinger before they died, Velma. I think you should remember those 3 pretty well.
Looks like your 9 lives are up.
Looks like this movie is a flat-out lie from beginning to end. Return to Zombie Island doesn't continue or expand on the lore of the original film. In order for Return to Zombie Island to function, it needs to flat-out change everything. Character development is both addressed and then undone, or is flat out ignored altogether. In terms of narrative, the film flat out creates false evidence to form a false foundation. It then frames everything as though it's just a lambasting joke at Zombie Island's expense. Why would you make a sequel to the most mature film of Scooby-Doo, the one that respected the audience intelligence so much they are willing to go a bit darker, and turn it into a self-deprecating mockery? If you made a sequel to Citizen Kane, you wouldn't change the story of Charles Foster Kane adding in fart jokes. Scooby-Doo on Zombie Island is a widely beloved film of the franchise. Its love is so widespread that mothers from the 90s approved it. The press held it in high regard for doing something unique in an otherwise tired franchise. All Return to Zombie Island does is completely undercut everything, especially Velma. So many recent movies have done nothing but characterize her as the most denial-stricken character imaginable. Velma actually had a character arc in Zombie Island. She went from a scientifically driven skeptic looking for answers where there were none, to a believer that the supernatural is a possibility. It's not even like she renounced science, she simply acknowledged there is more out there than what we find in books. It's not even Return to Zombie Island that keeps pushing this bunk. A lot of recent Scooby-Doo films have just driven home to an exaggerated degree that Velma is quite frankly an imbecile who refuses to acknowledge anything supernatural. And that's laughable because now this is canon with 13 Ghosts of Scooby-Doo with all this. This movie should be made under the pretense of a half-a-century celebration of Scooby-Doo. Scooby did not last this long on gimmicks alone. It lasted because of experimentation. Return to Zombie Island wants to celebrate everything that makes Scooby tired and played out, instead of celebrating the fun, the spooky, the experimental weirdness with Scooby and the gang. Scooby-Doo Return to Zombie Island having canon isn't the issue. I, however, criticize when said canon is trying to be both rebooted and sequelized to try and win mass fan appeal, along with trying to add gimmicks instead of engaging character writing. You know what I think they should have done for the 50th celebration instead of a sequel? Warner Brothers should have remastered Zombie Island. you already showed. You clearly could have, and think how much money Warner Bros. Could have saved if they had just remastered it. Make it widescreen, clean up the animation. You don't even have to hire a writer or anything. And you already have a dedicated customer base that would love to see Scooby-Doo in HD. This would create a great celebratory piece for the fans, which no corporation has any interest in. But it would also line WB's pockets, which we know is exactly what a corporation has interest in. But this is tasteless and dull slog on its own, and disgusting pandering on its own. At least Curse of the 13's Ghost had some charm thanks to Vincent Van Gogh.
Daphne, my Air Boo and Boo host just scream-mailed me back on my phone.
There's nothing charming about Return to Zombieland, and it should go into the letterbox where it belongs. Oh boy, Halloween! It's that Scooby-Doo time of year, and seeing how I loved the last 3 Scooby movies, why shouldn't I love a Scooby movie set on Halloween? You got it all. Candy, costumes, monsters, Bill Nye, Elvira, Scarecrow from Batman. Yeah. What more could a Scooby-Doo fan ask for? It's a trilogy now. Terrible life choices be damned. Welcome back to Cartoon Corner. I'm WHYBOY, that's Nero.
Sup?
And you know me, I'm the Scooby-Doo guy. I watch all the movies, peek at all the shows, and stay up to date on all the news. Is it because I'm a diehard fan of the franchise?
Oh, this sadness.
I really do appreciate that a 50-year-long running show is able to experiment and reinvent itself to somehow stay viable. It's that level of ingenuity that gives us returning staples of pop culture like TMNT, Transformers, and of course, Scooby-Doo. And now, we can discuss the most recent film at the time of this video, Happy Halloween Scooby-Doo. The very first ever Scooby-Doo Halloween movie.
What about the Goblin King?
Okay, that was on Halloween, but what about the spooky Scarecrow? Okay, that one too, but doesn't Scoob start on Halloween? That's maybe like 12 minutes of that movie, and the rest is a train wreck. Looks like WHYBOY cares about Scooby-Doo just as much as WB does. Which is not at all. That's not true. I care a lot. I watch these movies every single year, and rope Nero into watching them too.
Thanks. I appreciate it. Second, what sets this film apart isn't Halloween. It's that it's a boring, unimaginative, and lifeless venture.
Fun.
No, quite the opposite, Harry. See, Happy Halloween is, if anything, an experiment on half-assing multiple concepts. And a golden rule you should follow in life is you should never half-ass multiple things. You should, if anything, whole-ass a single thing. I mean, just look at my ass. That's a fine ass, man.
The story of Happy Halloween takes place in Crystal Cove, where after Mystery Inc. stops vaguely famous Batman villain Scarecrow from blowing up and/or poisoning downtown Crystal Cove, his fear gas mixes with some toxic waste to mutate a local pumpkin patch into a race of violent mutants. Which, for some reason, the movie has to have Velma declare this is the dumbest monster this franchise has ever faced.
Fred, this is so dumb. It's the dumbest monster ever. It can't be real.
Yep, never been monsters dumber than monster pumpkins in Scooby-Doo.
Except for that time before this movie where they actually fought monster pumpkins.
Anyways, these stupid pumpkins attack the town, driving folks to either run away or lock themselves indoors.
Which is actually much more dangerous, as we'll see later.
And the game flees in a driving segment to solve the mystery of the mutant pumpkins. a driving segment that takes up a majority of the film's runtime, which might be because of studio crunch.
Maxwell Adams, the writer and director, brings that up in an interview, so it seems pretty apparent.
Now, you might be asking, how does a story like this directly follow the previous stories, one of which is a retcon sequel movie concluding a TV show, and the other a retcon sequel movie horribly bastardizing its original movie?
I mean, it kinda doesn't.
Guys, I don't care about that! I just want to know more about Bill Nye and Elvira in this movie! I love famous people in movies, they're so pretty and they smell good. Yeah, the writing and acting from Bill Nye and Elvira is enjoyable. They each have dynamic personalities for this sort of crossover. In fact, I'd argue they have great personas to easily headline their own Scooby-Doo movies, individually, instead of sandwiching both of them into one movie.
That's not gonna be a great sandwich. It's gonna probably just be overloaded and bland. Look, I don't mind Elvira written as motivation for Scarecrow, though that is completely messed up in the execution. Scarecrow does say at least twice he is a fan and did come to the parade for Elvira.
I did write her a fan mail, so technically I am both crazed and a fan.
And look, I get it. As fans, we want to show our explosive passion for what we enjoy. And Scarecrow wanted to do this too, by mass serial bombing Crystal Cove and potentially killing her in the process. I remember one time when I met Beethoven and I was like, oh man, your music's so good, you're my composer of choice. Then I dropped the bomb right there in the middle of the concert hall. Though the part that churns my guts is how Daphne's character gimmick for this movie is that she's a stalker. And that's not us interpreting that or up to conjecture. They lay that out on Front Street for us.
Wait, were you just trying to replace Elvira and take over her life?
She's done this before.
Don't make Daphne a bad person.
Yeah, Warner Brothers. Don't go Teen Titaning's going Scooby-Doo.
And while Elvira works alright, I don't think that compares to how they mishandled Bill Nye. I mean, right out of the gate, they dropped the ball as Bill Nye just...
It's Bill Nye!
Phones in, and voila! He's known the game already, and they know him, no setup or anything.
So in this movie, Bill Nye does what?
He gives them a mystery machine.
Oh, to replace the one that they lost in the last two films, right?
No, Nero! You can't think of continuity in a trilogy, you silly Billy! They got that one off screen at the start of this movie.
Wait, what?
So in Curse of the 13th Ghost, the Scooby Gang sold the mystery machine because the sheriff threatened to arrest them for committing what is basically vigilantism.
Right.
Then in Return to Zombie Island, the mystery machine is gone, Fred is neurotic and horny about it missing, and then at the end, they say they'll get it back.
Okay.
Now, in Happy Halloween, they just have the van back, but it gets destroyed by Scarecrow literally right away, and so Bill Nye luckily happens to call, gives them a new one, which also gets destroyed.
Why even bring it back if it's gonna be destroyed again? And if it was gonna do that, why didn't they weave it in that Bill was making them a new one? Make him matter in terms of, the story, rather than making literally a throwaway plot point, invented specifically for this situation even though we had pre-existing plot points we could have worked off of.
Well, it doesn't help that Bill Nye is also barely in the movie and bails at the 40-minute mark. He just spouts exposition to the mystery and then pieces out. Aw, that sucks. Well, what about Scarecrow? That's a WATC property from Batman. They must have done him justice, right?
Obnoxious. Scarecrow's just like you or me. He's a working class Joe. He likes scaring folks with no motivation outside of scaring folks. And he wakes up every morning, puts both feet on the floor, grabs a handful of straw, and shoves it right down in his butt crack, just like the rest of us. He's an everyman. Scarecrow is among the most iconic of Batman villains, easily the top 10. Mostly thanks to Bill Finger and to hell with Bob Kane. The guy that plays mind games and twists your perspective on the world with sheer terror. Frankly, he'd be ideal for a Scooby-Doo project.
But?
Oh, I got a but all right. How about this? This movie does such a laughable job of building him up. Scarecrow barely gets screen time since he has to share it with Bill Nye, Elvira, and a poorly implemented message about believing in friendship with Velma. Plus, the fact that his fear drones are taken out by a hippie using a dog as a gun, yet the film wants Scarecrow to be looked at as this dangerous, viable threat. You gotta call in the FBI, you gotta give him an isolated police transport to Arkham Asylum. Yet, the most amazing thing this character has ever achieved is get viciously beaten with a chair by Joker. And while I'm sick of Batman being this money crutch for Warner Brothers, since they really rely heavily on that IP to carry other properties, I honestly feel gypped that Batman doesn't show up. Call me greedy, but I feel like it would have been a nice reward to see Batman show up and thank Mr. Ink.
Batman, you're so cool.
You guys are such wet blankets. If you hated this movie so much, why'd you even watch it? Oh.
Now here's something. Sometimes there's nothing better than spending your hard-earned money and relinquishing an hour plus of your life that you'll just never get back.
Why, that's every viewer's ideal experience, isn't it? To waste time, money, only to end up bored or angry? You guys are too sarcastic.
You're out of order, you popkin.
What? It's why we're talking about the crossover elements first. Scooby's ability to experiment is limitless, be it with going to space, hanging out with Kiss,
or making a racially insensitive mess.
Oli! The idea that this was the first multi-property crossover movie.
Technically, Scoob was that, and we all know how that went. Click available links.
My point is that Scooby is a remarkably versatile property. While there is a minor seed of brilliance planted in this movie, that seed is not well grown.
Much like the concept of mutant monster pumpkins.
Oh, because this could have been Scooby-Doo's answer to Splatterhouse Horror, right?
Coulda, woulda, shoulda, wasn't. See, for a lot of folks, Halloween is a comfort zone of fright. Gore and viscera, it's celebrated as antics of the horror genre. The pumpkins were a perfect way past the censors for good old-fashioned Evil Dead-style splatstick violence. You could smash them so many creative ways, since in the end, it's just pumpkin goop. This movie could have taken advantage of that angle. Write the story as a throwback to old-fashioned zombie flicks, like Night of the Living Dead. You start off in a small town, the pumpkins are rising up and wreaking untold havoc, and then our heroes are driven to a last stand at a cabin in the woods.
Nero, that did happen. That's basically the plot points for this movie.
Well, then why is it so disappointing, man?
Because, unfortunately, the crude, gory sound that would make the joke hit home is missing to instead have canned Hanna-Barbera sound effects. Woo.
That and, is it just me? But this flick feels a lot like a regurgitation of Billy and Mandy's Jacked Up Halloween. You know the one, right? Jack-o'-lantern shows up, raises a pumpkin army, and then the pumpkins get all exploded at the end. Heck, actually come to think of it, Scarecrow in this even kind of looks like Jack from that special.
It does sort of feel like Maxwell Adams took his 2003 special and just wedged Scooby-Doo into it.
Weaponized nostalgia is the way of the future, WHYBOY. You saw Scoob and most of Disney's current lot of films.
Maybe, but this is all just dancing around the main crux of the issues with Happy Halloween. Despite all the great ideas, it can't save a movie that on one level is a terribly structured mystery and the next is bending itself into a pretzel to be a trilogy story which does not work.
Let's set the scene. Scarecrow's attack on Crystal Cove was actually a setup by the true culprit. Now mind you, Scarecrow said he was there only to see Elvira and watch the Halloween parade.
I had no plans to attack Elvira or to do anything tonight other than watch the Halloween parade.
And Crane didn't even know about the mutant pumpkins, so he feels severely out of the loop on this caper.
Do you think this is all linked to the jack-o'-lanterns?
The what?
Heck, even the movie's acknowledging that all these connections seem utterly preposterous.
It's true that we do not seem to have anything in common.
Despite all the evidence that the movie itself is pointing out the narrative flaws of this story, here we are. With the culprit using Scarecrow's unsolicited attack as an impromptu distraction as a means to snatch lithium from the caverns underneath Crystal Cove. Simultaneously setting up a scenario where Mystery Inc. is made to look like fools while Scarecrow takes the fall for the crime.
Explained like that, it actually sounds like a standard Scooby-Doo villain plan. So what's wrong with it?
Here's my reverse ask. What's right with it? Let's guess who's behind this caper, shall we? Is it the apparent 53rd best villain Scarecrow? Maybe it's Mike, some random guy who thanked Mystery Inc. that one time, and then just got entangled in the plot for no reason. Or maybe it's Sheriff.
Who's dead?
That's an appropriate question, little dragon. See, it's so appropriate a question that even the movie acknowledges this.
Who is that?
That's right. But Sheriff who? You never bothered to ask.
Oopsie doops. I think we're spoiled the mystery, Nero.
Oh no, and it was so well written. Like anyone cares.
Jeez, guys, you are being really sarcastic. It's a kid's mystery. Of course the bad guy would be more obvious to you.
Oh, you misunderstand, Smolder. The problem isn't that the bad guy is obvious.
I mean, if anything, it's that the bad guy's too inconceivable.
Again, in terms of suspects, you have the Red Herring, a character who has no purpose being there, and the Sheriff. There is no other key characters in the movie to focus on, as the grand majority of the movie is Scooby-Doo a la Mad Max with non-stop driving. That's a weak lineup of suspects, even for a Scooby-Doo movie.
And there aren't really that many clues to point out to suspects. A key clue that is brought up are drones. These are used to carry Scarecrow's fear toxin and help animate the pumpkins to make them seem alive. The drones are developed by Toe Omnitech, a tech company which links the entire incident to Cutler Toe, the president of the company. Oh, no one knows who that is? Well, don't worry, because Sheriff's exposition here will give you a vivid buildup of who Cutler Toe is.
Ever since you kids unmasked the trash monster of Scranton, it's me who's been warning you not to mess with law enforcement.
Yep, the clue to link the sheriff to a culprit you never directly met is a mystery the game solved we never actually saw. Isn't that great?
No.
Now, for those into writing and story structure, blatantly obvious exposition like that sends up a red flag. As this clue does not tie into the context of the mystery, it's an exposition nugget to point out a character that the writer couldn't naturally integrate into the story. So it just shoves these characters in to make the viewer consider them as suspects even when they aren't there in the mystery. Like in Scooby-Doo 2002, where Velma reminisced about Scrappy, or Monsters Unleashed, where they talked about the pterodactyl ghost dying, escaping jail, or Monster in Mexico, where the gang just hang off Mr. Smiley's sign. All these scenes only serve as a quick setup to reveal the villain for later, instead of implementing multiple clues to make a mystery.
Eso no es bueno.
It's a lazy means to create a shortcut in the mystery, but, let me be fair. Unlike those three baddies, Sheriff had 2 previous movies, including this one, to connect and build up his character before this reveal.
And the Sheriff said he was pulling the strings. So what did he even do in the last few movies? Hey, you little beatniks! Stop doing mysteries, or I'll arrest ya! Oh, go on vacation, you little beatniks. But no mystery solving, no. Yes, you're doing the mystery solving again, ain't ya? I'm gonna send you to jail.
But we wants to do mystery, Sheriff.
Well, I can't argue with that. You did a pretty good job catching the Scarecrow there, kids. Don't go this up, beatniks, and hear the picture of me.
But we caught Scarecrow, though.
Like I said, don't this up. Have a good one. Hey, drive the speed limit, you beatniks.
But what about the pumpkins?
The what? I got seats in my mouth.
Truly, we gave him a voice fitting for such a character.
And altogether, Sheriff has an on-screen time of 8 minutes and 42 seconds before his reveal.
You know what the issue there is?
Where would you like to start? Sheriff had 3 movies worth of time to characterize himself, and we didn't know his name until the third movie?
That and his on-screen time is comparable to Mike, who had one movie and we spent the same amount of time with him than Sheriff in 3. Actually, we spent more time with Mike, and he doesn't do anything for the movie. Even if this was a planned trilogy.
And with several different directors and writers, that seems highly dubious at best.
They botched the delivery by not giving the sheriff any sort of urgency within the actual stories of these 3 movies. He feels like an afterthought, and unlike the other 2 Scooby movies, which are still bad movies in our opinion, both had solid foundations to structure their stories on. Mind you, they still retcon their stories to oblivion. This trilogy finale is based on a character that's just a ball of non-stop inconsistencies. The whole movie is jumping through hoops, trying to make the last 2 films work in continuity. You have the sheriff going from antagonistic to friendly to antagonistic again.
I tell you that you are breaking the law to wear down your confidence, and then tell you I supported you to build it back up.
The old hotsy-coldsy trick.
No, you macadamia nut, it's just bad writing. You're trying to connect 2 films that have no connection. What's wrong with you?
Nothing but net.
With a kid's mystery or an adult mystery, a mystery should have clues to help the audience reach a conclusion. That is the most basic structure of a mystery story. The inclusion of Sheriff destroys all that, as Happy Halloween does not have structure as a standalone movie, and certainly not as a trilogy finale. So you got a gag to end this review on?
Scarecrow murders the sheriff at the end, so it ain't all bad.
That's Toe's car, all right. He couldn't have gotten far. Come on. It's not like someone could just swoop in and grab him.
He's dead now. Thanks for stopping by Cartoon Corner. Feel free to comment below and let us know what you thought of Happy Halloween Scooby-Doo. And if you'd like to see more from ToonGrin, please subscribe and hit the notification bell to stay up to date with all of our videos and projects. You can even follow us on our social media, join our Discord server to see what we're working on next, or support us by becoming a patron or getting a shirt from our shop. All links are in the description below, and as always, be sure to tune in to ToonGrin and have a happy Halloween.